What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first edition of Tuesdays with Turbo in 2026. Yes, we made it. It is 2026. 2025 is behind us. But look what all we have to look forward to. And speaking of looking forward, this is the first episode of the year, and it's a day late. Yeah, I know. But this show kind of took a little bit longer to put together, so it's gonna be worth it. I know it is, and it has a really special story as to what brought on the motivation for this, as well as kind of, I'm not going to say me proving a point, but we'll get into that. But for those of you that do not know, my name is Ryan Turbo Jackson. I am your insurance resource. And let's be honest, everything today, even in 2026, is super expensive, including your insurance. So let me help you know what you're buying. So let's get into kind of the story as to what brought this idea on. In the past, I would say probably 8 or 9 months, I've become more of an active X user, and I do it mostly for the Turbo and 2K Show podcast, get up to the minute sports updates, but on the occasion, it's kind of inevitable in this day and age. Politics comes into my algorithm every now and again, and this one comes from a governor candidate for Michigan. I was going to screenshot everything and kind of put it into so you could see who this was, see exactly what was said, and I figured, you know what, I'm not going to give this gentleman any pub or create any backlash, I guess you could say. I mean, so let's just, I'm going to read what this gentleman said. In his initial post, it says, "It's time to bring accountability and affordability back to driving in Michigan. I will get rid of no-fault insurance and bring back at-fault auto insurance. Did you know we had at-fault auto insurance back in 1975? Your dumbass representatives failed when they switched to no-fault. Time for change in Michigan. I will deliver the change you deserve." So yes, the dumbass part kind of hit me kind of deep, because this is something that is a big misconception. Huge misconception as to, yes, our auto insurance is the most expensive in the country, but it has nothing to do with no fault. So I'm going to show you today the difference between an Indiana policy and a Michigan policy. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into this conversation. So I replied, "As an insurance agent for over a decade, it's the PIP that's the expensive part, not no fault. I'm licensed in both Indiana and Michigan. The medical coverage is the difference." To which he replied, "At fault is still less expensive and bringing accountability to the roads. I shouldn't have to pay to fix my car or cover my own medical because you can't drive and hit me." So I replied back, I said, "Not true at all. I do quotes all the time in Michigan and Indiana every day. I have even quoted myself living in similar locations in both states. The difference is the unlimited medical coverage in Michigan. Indiana maxes out at $25K in coverage." He replies, "At-fault auto insurance is 42 times less expensive than no-fault. We've talked to almost 100 different agents here in Michigan. We've done our research, and they are all on board with going back to no-fault. We aren't getting taken advantage of by insurance companies in Michigan anymore." Really boastful, really strong political candidate talk. Talk down to the person who does it every day. So I just replied, "If you say so, dude, I know firsthand you are incorrect." This is where he really lit a fire under me. He replies back, "No, you refuse to accept the facts. How much money you make off of the people in Michigan with it? How much money do you make off the people in Michigan with this no-fault insurance? How much do you stand to lose with less expensive premiums from at-fault policies? The numbers don't lie. Remember that." So I was talking to my wife while we were both sitting on the couch, and I was explaining everything, and she goes, Ryan, just take the high road. So I said, best of luck on your campaign, dude. So after much consideration, I said, you know what? Let's do this the right way. I'm not going to sit here and haggle on X with some blowhard that thinks that I'm a moron, because I actually know what I'm talking about. So for this exercise, I have chosen a particular person, just made up the name. However, I used his name, my birthday, two addresses, one in Cassopolis, one in Granger. Both of these addresses are listings on Zillow currently, which are both very nice houses. And if you're in the market for a $420,000 to $450,000 house, both are extremely awesome. But they are both rural in nature and both have the same protection classes. Why is that important? Well, it's not, I hate this term, but it's not apples to apples. If you compare a quote to, say, Cassopolis to South Bend, like downtown South Bend, or even Granger to Kalamazoo, because they're two different protection classes, meaning there's more people. Well, it doesn't really mean there's more people, but Kalamazoo is a more densely populated area, meaning that it's ultimately a higher risk because there's more people, more cars. You get the idea. So I wanted to make this as close to a comparison as possible. I also chose an actual 2019 Chevy Silverado, which is available at Tappers and Pawpaw if you're so interested. But I will go over all of that. I did the same coverages with the exception of the medical. On the Michigan, I have because he is born in, this hypothetical person was born in 1980, so we are unable to opt out of the PIP coverage. So in the Michigan quote, you'll see that it is unlimited. In the Indiana quote, I have it maxed out at $25,000 to make it as even as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the Michigan quote, I'm going to go over the Indiana quote, and then I'm going to give you the premium differences, and then what it actually costs for the medical portion in Michigan, and then kind of give you a breakdown there. And then I'll you know what? Before that, we'll actually go into the differences between no fault and not no fault. So let's get into that right out the gate. So in Michigan, we have no fault auto insurance, which means if you and I are in an accident, my insurance takes care of me and mine, yours takes care of you and yours. So what are the kind of the benefits to this? Medical bills and property damage claims get paid out immediately. There's no need to go to court. There's no lawsuits. There's no fighting. There's no delays. It's just as soon as everything's taken care of, boom, medical bills are paid, property damage, whether that's your car, if you hit something that has to get fixed too. So there you go. Way better medical coverage. Like I said, this is unlimited PIP, meaning any injury sustained in an auto accident is taken care of at no cost. Well, depending on the company. With this company, it is at a $0 deductible, and you don't pay for anything associated with that injury for as long as it's with you. It also has wage loss and replacement services. So if you're in an accident and you can't work, you can get a certain percentage of your wages paid for by the insurance company. There's fewer lawsuits over injuries, less who caused it drama to get medical care covered. And as you can imagine, when there's two insurance companies fighting back and forth, neither one of them wants to pay. So these lawsuits could be drawn out for quite a long time, meaning your medical bills are still in your name, so those bills are going to collections, can ruin your credit. It's not good for anybody. And you're protected from other people's mistakes. Get hit by someone uninsured or underinsured, your coverage still steps in. The downside, it is expensive. like I said, it is the most expensive auto insurance in the country. But it's protecting you against very large, or possibly very large, medical bills, wage loss, the whole 9 yards. So yes, is it expensive? Mm-hmm. But when it's needed, it steps in when life gets the hardest, which is kind of what insurance is supposed to be. So let's look at Indiana and their at-fault system. How it works is the at-fault driver's insurance pays if they have enough coverage. Medical bills often go through health insurance first, which is why you'll see when we get to the quote, this auto quote has the maximum medical coverage possible, which is $25,000. Lawsuits are common when injuries are serious or coverage runs out. So this is if you're hurt in an accident by someone that has very, very little insurance or very little income, not only are you behind, but now everything is in court and you're trying to ultimately get blood out of a turnip. So you're relying on other people being not only insured but financially secure to pay for injuries, damages, and whatnot. So can get very sticky, very sticky. Some pros: lower premiums on paper and a simple policy structure. On the flip side, the cons, which a lot of people don't think about, is we talked in delays in medical payments, out-of-pocket risks if the other driver has low limits, more legal headaches, often when injuries occur, no built-in wage loss or household help. And even with the Michigan, with the way the PIP works in Michigan, there's a death benefit. Kind of keep that in mind too. The real bottom line with both of these: Michigan is protection first. You pay more, but you're covered when things go sideways. Indiana, cheaper up front, riskier later, fine for fender benders, but brutal for serious crashes. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes as like what are the main differences here? Because that's something we get all the time as to, especially being so close to the Indiana-Michigan border, is I would say 9 out of 10 people will say Michigan's auto insurance is so expensive because it's no fault. Which, let's get into it. Okay, start off with a fresh screen here. This is like I said, I'll walk you through this. This is from auto owners. I work with auto owners in both Michigan and Indiana. And at the last agency I worked at, we were also able to work with auto owners in Illinois, Ohio, Indiana as well, Florida, parts of Missouri. I know I'm missing some other ones, but those are the ones that are right around us, okay? And as you can see here, I did both quotes for a gentleman named John Sample, which I just picked out of thin air, and I put my birthday in. And ironically enough, Mr. John Sample does actually exist because he has a motor vehicle record and whatnot. I did not run your motor vehicle report, so we're fine. So for the sake of both of these, I did white out the premiums amount, which are usually right over here under the proposal ID. So let's go take a cruise down here to the personal injury protection. We talked about the unlimited medical. We talked about the work loss, replacement services, and survivor benefits. We've talked about that already. And it does have accidental death at $20,000 per person. And these are I did both quotes with $250,000 per person, $500,000 per occurrence bodily injury limits, which we've talked about at great lengths. Bodily injury is liability. You hear liability, think lawsuit. Property damage at $100,000. So if you hit someone's house or someone's fence or whatever, there's $100,000 to cover that on this quote. Uninsured and underinsured motorists, I did both $250,000 per person, $500,000 per occurrence. The mini tort, I did the $300,000, which is the max here in Michigan, and the personal or the property protection, and then like I said, the the personal injury protection, which it says refer to the limit above, which is unlimited. And these right here, from allowable expenses medical work and all the way down through the MACP here, are all PIP or personal injury protection charges for this quote. So what we're going to see is I'm going to subtract all of those once we get there. But I did a $100 comprehensive deductible, and here in Michigan I did a $500 regular collision because, again, I wanted these quotes to be as similar as possible. Excuse me. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that Michigan has 3 types of collision coverage. I picked the one that would resemble the only choice in Indiana, which is regular collision. I did all reasonable cost roadside coverage and $40 per day up to $1,200 each occurrence. It's additional expense, but it's rental car reimbursement. And that gives us a grand total of $2,321.51. I did include on both of these quotes the home and auto discount as well. So just wanted to throw that out there. So this is basically what your standard, what a lot of people would call full coverage quote for. I guess I didn't highlight the vehicle here. The 2019 Chevy Silverado. This is an actual vehicle. Like I said, it's for sale at Tappers and Pawpaw. Actually has about 80,000 miles and is actually a pretty good deal. So if you're interested, here's the VIN number, and you'll see the VIN number is exactly the same as the Indiana quote. So that being said, let's get over to the Indiana quote. And but before we do that, let me go back up to the top. Like I pointed out in the beginning, this address 69312 Teeter Trail in Cassopolis. It is an actual house. It is on Zillow for sale. So just kind of and like I said, these are two homes that are similar in their surroundings. So both rural. Cassopolis can be pretty rural. So for this one, it's 50975 Cobus Ridge Lane in Granger. Again, very nice house. Is an actual listing on Zillow if you want to take a look at that. Again, for our same gentleman, John Sample, again, use my birthday. Everything pulled up exactly the same as it did in Michigan. So we know we have 2 similar insurance scores, 2 similar backgrounds, so everything checks out there. Same Chevy Silverado. Bodily injury limits, exactly the same. Property damage, exactly the same. Uninsured and underinsured motorist coverages are exactly the same. And like I said, the medical payments differ here. Michigan, we did unlimited. The Indiana, $25,000. And again, comprehensive, $100. Collision, $500. Roadside, all reasonable costs, and $40 a day up to or $1,200 per occurrence for rental reimbursement. As you can see, there's a vast difference in the actual coverages in an Indiana policy as compared to a Michigan policy, which when we're going through the differences, it's a much simpler policy structure. So here it is in real time. So that annual, and again, these are both annual policies, annual premium of $1,798.89. And here's an actual picture of said Silverado from the dealer. So I know I kind of threw a lot at you at once, so let's take a step back and kind of break it down. The Michigan annual premium for this quote is $2,321.51. The Indiana annual premium is $1,798.89. Now, I did not include the pay in full discount for either of these because that can be a little bit deceiving because the discount isn't the same in both states. But for the sake of this, I did not include those. So that leaves us with an annual premium difference of $522.62. Which, when I was doing this, 7-8 years ago, it was almost half. So that 23 number used to be, I would say, probably 1,300 as opposed to 1,700. So not only have we seen Michigan's auto insurance increase, we've seen other states surrounding us also increase, even though they are not no fault. So like I told you, I was going to take out all of those premium, all that premium that's associated with the unlimited medical, which in our case is $392.83 for the year. So that difference is 120, if you take the premium difference minus the Michigan the medical coverage, you get a difference of $129.70 or $10.81 a month. So let that sink in a little bit, okay? So for $11 a month, essentially, we can have our no fault where we don't have to go through the litigation. We don't have to worry about what other people have. We have just the peace of mind to knowing that my auto insurance is my responsibility. It covers me, my family, my car, and whatever happens. I don't want to have to rely on someone else to make sure that they have the proper coverage, whether I'm at fault or not. I would, for $11 a month, I think we're cool where we're at. So for gubernatorial candidate, that we had this little sparring match back and forth on X. I'm not sure where your experts are getting 42%. Because last I checked, $130. The conversation went even further. I said, I applaud you looking at this because auto insurance is expensive, because everything right now is expensive. And I was kind of saying you're barking up the wrong tree, because this is exactly what I was talking about. I said, if you really want to make a difference with auto insurance, you need to take a step back and look at the PIP reform that went into effect in 2020, because it went into effect July 2020, and not everyone knows anything about it. Prior to that, everyone was unlimited, no matter your age, no matter what. Everyone was unlimited. But now with this change, yes, if you're retired, you can opt out of it altogether. Excuse me. And even the longer this has been going on, that opt-out is getting the premium difference between unlimited and opting out is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And you might be asking yourself, well, why is that? Why is that? Well, the insurance companies are trying to price themselves out of offering that coverage altogether, because it just isn't working. It just isn't working. So for those, I told this gentleman, I said, you might want to look at that, because that's the main, and I proved it to you, hands down, right here. That is the reason why. It's not because of no fault. It's because of the medical. And my personal opinion, and I have this conversation all the time when it comes to our elderly clients, is yes, you can opt out. It's a complete choice of, it's 100% your choice. Half of our book of business remains unlimited because they want to make sure that they pay zero out of pocket if something happens. And then there's the other side that said, you know what, it seems like because I have Medicare Part A and B, and I have some pretty beefy supplements, that I'm essentially paying for it twice. So there isn't a right answer, there isn't a wrong answer. It's whichever one you prefer. I enjoy that we have choices now. But to sit here and just be like, yep, it's the no fault. It's the no fault. And what drove me absolutely nuts about this whole conversation, and normally when it comes to this stuff, I don't comment at all because it ends up in something like this. So for me to comment on it, for one, is not in my comfort zone, because to me, it a lot of these things just pretty much end up in a pissing match, and it does no one any good. So, but when he started, this was something that, a political tactic, I believe, to gain traction on a huge misconception. So that's why I wanted to step in and be like, yo, no, you're wrong. You're actually incorrect. Which the tweets that I read you, I actually said that. And when I said, best of luck on your campaign, he continued to go. So I was like, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And if anyone else is interested, I can call some friends that do have access to other states, and we can continue this John Sample saga, because I guarantee it's going to be extremely, extremely similar. Extremely similar. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is no fault coverage the reason why Michigan auto insurance is so expensive? And the answer is no. The answer is no. The reason all auto insurance is expensive is because it's the cost of everything associated with it. The labor, the parts, the whole 9 yards. And when it comes, and for him to say that I'm saying this because I would lose so much money, is crap. Is absolutely crap. We're providing a product that steps in when life changes in the blink of an eye. It's a very powerful coverage. Is it a little expensive? Yes. And I can understand where he's coming from, because this was the whole thing we were promised with the whole no-fault reform in 2020, is that our aim is to get more people insured, lower the premium so they can afford it, so there's more people insured. I get that. But it failed miserably. Miserably. So to go and attack no fault like this is a complete and utter misconception, and you're trying to take advantage of people that don't know what's going on. So that's what got me fired up about this whole thing. And I know this isn't our normal, kind of happy video, but it was one that needed to be made. Needed to be made. And I will be editing this and sending it and posting it on that X thread, because it needs to be said. And I'm not sure who I'm more disappointed in, this candidate or the 42 or the 100 agents that he talked to for filling him full of this. So that's neither here nor there. But that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you next week, hopefully on Tuesday. But yeah, like I said, this one took a little bit longer to get around, so it's a day late. No big deal. But we're getting 2026 kicked off in the right way, and everyone enjoy the mud that's here, but also enjoy the warmer weather. Get those Christmas decorations down, and let's start to reset. Even though it looks like spring, it's only January. It's gonna get cold again. So everyone take care. I will see you next week, and everyone have a good week.